The Florida Gators coaching staff is finalized. Now it is full steam ahead for the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's the podcast and on YouTube. This might be your second time listening to Locked On Gators because, well, we did have an episode come out at 8 a.m. Eastern time this morning. It is now noon Eastern time. We're here again. So if you did listen to the first episode, thank you. If you didn't, you're dead to me. No other way to put that one. But the Florida Gators have wrapped up their coaching staff with the hiring of Chris Foster last night, running backs coach from Duke. And first off, anybody in the live chat, I would like to hear your thoughts on the coaching staff. If it's a grade, whatever it is, go ahead, put it in the chat, and we'll talk about that coaching staff. We'll talk about it there. Preston, try to. The coaching staff for the Florida Gators from top down: head coach John Summerall, offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner, defensive coordinator Brad White, special teams coordinator Jonathan Galante, strength and conditioning coach Rusty Witt. You got then offensive staff is quarterbacks coach Joe Craddock, running backs coach Chris Foster, wide receivers coach Marcus Davis, tight ends coach Evan McKissick, offensive line coach Phil Troutwine. Defensive side is assistant head coach and defensive line coach, which feels good to say, right? I think most of us love Gerald Chapman, so it feels good to say that. Assistant head coach and defensive line coach Gerald Chapman, outside linebackers coach Bam Hardman, inside linebackers coach Greg Gasparito, cornerbacks coach Brandon Harris, safeties coach Chris Collins, and nickels coach Day One Wilkins. And what's up, JLB? What's up, everybody? We got Harrison in here. We got Riser in here. We got everybody. We got the whole family here. It's a holiday. Look at that. Merry Christmas to you too, Josh. And the Florida Gators coaching staff is filled out. I saw someone, we got Phoenix Riser said A- or B+. Honestly, I'm a little bit torn on some of these things, right? Just because I view it as like with the NFL draft, like with the NFL draft, I do draft grades afterwards for the New York Giants, right? And your first round pick, the value is way higher than anything else, right? Like your first round pick is done, is there. We got it. That's the most important thing. If you nail your first round pick and you just suck it on day 3, it is what it is, right? I'm sorry for you picking that team. Here's the thing, Gorilla Toes. Here's the thing. I don't know what team you're a fan of, right? I don't think the Phoenix Risers, the Colts fan. But I've seen my team win two Super Bowls in my lifetime. That's more than a lot of people would say, right? So I think that, nailing the more important positions matters, right? Like nailing the more important draft picks matters. Offensive coordinator, A+, right? A huge Buster Faulkner fan. Think he's one of the best offensive coordinators in football. Get him here. That's huge. Brad White, I'd say A- B+, right? I like Brad White, but I also know John Summerall is going to have a say in this defense. That's going to be a little crossed up, whatever that's going to be, and crossed up not in a bad way, but you are probably going to see a defense that is a hybrid. Like we had Cody Alexander here a week or two ago on Locked On Gators to talk about it. I'll throw the link in the chat now, but we had Cody Alexander here to talk about it, where this is probably going to be a little bit of a hybrid type of defense between what John Summerall has done at Troy and Tulane, which Cody Alexander called the East Coast 3-4, and what Brad White has done at Kentucky. And so I think that's going to be a really interesting mix there, and that's going to probably help dictate what that's going to look like. Again, just throw in that link in the chat for whoever does want to watch that at some point. That's what you got. But we don't know what that's going to look like at this point, right? I know Brad White was a good DC with Kentucky, right? Every team that played Kentucky knew, what's up, T? Everybody that played Kentucky knew we're about to be in a fight. That's all they knew. We're about to be in a fight. Like, they're not going to give us easy anything. So you got that. Like, we know we have a good DC there. Great. Special teams coordinator, Jonathan Galante. Great special teams coordinator, right? Tulane was near the top of the country, especially in the field position battle. They were first in starting offensive field position and 14th in starting defensive field position in the country this year. Great. A lot of that is punt return, punt coverage, kick return, kick coverage. They nailed it. Thanks, Tay. Appreciate you. Strength and conditioning, Rusty Witt. He's a badass. Like, you give me a badass special forces that's done strength and conditioning at the Power 4 level. Yep, good with it. I'm good with it. Like, that's it. Like, and look, that was the thing with Tyler Miles. It was like a bunch of the guys looked good. They did, right? Like a bunch of the players looked like they were in considerably better shape. They looked built. But I think especially when you watch the trenches this year, it's like, all right, I think some of those might have just been muscles for show and not function because, didn't look great there, right? Didn't look great. Got pushed around quite a bit by the teams that had great trenches beat the crap out of Florida. That's what it was, right? Miami, Texas A&M, they beat the crap out of Florida. Now you got a different part there. Then the offensive coaching staff, Joe Craddock. Look, I will tell you this. If Joe Craddock was going to be the offensive coordinator, I would have lost my mind. I would have been out on the entire hire probably, as in the entire summer hire if Craddock was the OC. Him being a QB coach, I'm good with that. I just would have hated him being the OC with his offense from Tulane. Now he's going to have a year, maybe 2 to learn under Buster Faulkner, and then probably be the OC, right? So long as he keeps up with what Faulkner's doing. Again, if Faulkner's here for a year or 2 and then leaves, it's probably because things went really well. And so if Craddock keeps up with what Faulkner's doing and doesn't revert to what we saw at Tulane, I'm good with it, right? That little Giants bullcrap in the college football playoff to pick up 5 yards, ridiculous. So glad we won't have that. Also, I will say this, hiring a G6 coordinator to be a SEC position coach, like that's the kind of transition that you should be making. The issue isn't bringing guys from the G5, G6. The issue is bringing guys and giving them the same level of responsibility, right? Patrick Toney and Sunbelt DC to SEC DC. That was the issue. Here we got Sunbelt OC to QB coach, Sunbelt DC to linebacker coach. That's good. That's a transition they should see. You get a promotion of school, but your responsibility is not the same. That's important. Running backs coach Chris Foster. An interesting hire from Duke. He's someone who, he's had some success. He helped get Matt Breida to the league. He helped get Keaton Mitchell to the league. But also, he's bounced around a lot, which I know seems like a good thing that you're constantly getting promoted, but it also seems like kind of a bad thing just because we don't know what you are, what you do developmentally. We don't know the guys that you evaluate, how they end up playing. It's interesting there. So you got Chris Foster there. Wide receiver coach Marcus Davis from Auburn. Good recruiter. Receivers, it's tough to gauge how good the receivers at Auburn really were because we know Cam Coleman was a dude, right? We all know Cam Coleman was a dude. But we also know that quarterback play at Auburn in the entire Hugh Freeze era sucked. I mean, Hugh Freeze blamed Jackson Arnold for why he got fired this year. And it's just like, dude, guess what? That's who you evaluated and brought in and bet your future on. You can blame Jackson Arnold for not being good enough. You could also blame yourself for being an idiot. Just saying that one. And Peyton Thorne was like, I don't know why the hell. Like, he brought in quarterbacks that weren't playing well and was like, I could fix them. Don't get it. Tight ends coach Evan McKissick. Interested to see what he's going to be able to do there. Evan McKissick, of course, like, was an offensive line coach last year, but he was tight ends before that. Like, this isn't, an offensive line coach is becoming the tight ends coach. This is a tight ends coach, became an offensive line coach for a year at Tulane, and then went back to being a tight ends coach. That's what it is. I don't like seeing people go, oh yeah, you're bringing in your O-line coach to be tight ends coach. No, you're not. You made your tight end coach your O-line coach for a year, and then now he's back to being a tight ends coach. He's back to doing what he's done for more of his career. That's it. Offensive line coach Phil Troutwine is obviously just nailing that hire, right? Absolutely destroyed it. You don't get better than that right now, especially for Florida. Like, that might have been the best hire possible for Florida. Brandon, should we read your description of interesting for some of these hires as mediocre? I don't think so. I think you should read me say interesting as skeptical. Right? I think that's the better way. Like, when I say, oh, that's interesting, I think it would be better to take it as me being skeptical of it. Not saying that they're mediocre, but they're guys that I am questioning about the fit. And so with Phil Troutwine, like, that might have been the best hire possible. Even if he's not the best offensive line coach, he's a damn good one. But I'm sure there's people who say he is the best. I'm sure there's people who say he's not the best. I don't care. He's a damn good offensive line coach that went to Florida, has those ties. That matters a lot. There's not a better hire for the University of Florida than Phil Troutwine on the offensive line. I'm really excited to see what he could do with some of the 2026 commits, some of the 2025 commits. I'm really excited to see what that looks like with the past couple years. Some of the guys they brought in, like a Fletcher Westfall, Tyler Chukuyam this year. I'm really excited to see what those guys look like under Phil Troutwine and actually good offensive line development, not Rob Sale. Defensive side of the ball, like I said, assistant head coach Gerald Chapman, defensive line coach. Perfect. Like, that's it. It doesn't get any better than that. And also, interesting note, 2026 is going to be the first time that Gerald Chapman has spent a third year at a school, because he has also constantly gone up and moved around. And so that's going to be his third year, or his third year with a school for the first time. That's going to be that. He was at LSU, Tulane, he bounced around, he went to the NFL briefly. And honestly, probably, like, we could say this about Gerald Chapman. He's probably another guy where we're going to say he's going to be here for a year or two. That's it. Like, he's going to be here for a year or two. I don't know if he has, like, defensive coordinator aspirations. I really don't. But I do think that the NFL is going to come calling early and often. Right, Ben Johnson got hired by the Bears and immediately started calling Gerald Chapman the D-line coach. In fact, he hired a D-line coach, moved him to outside linebackers, and then tried to hire Gerald Chapman. Like, that's what they were trying to do there. And so Gerald Chapman, probably not going to be here long. I do think that the NFL is in his future at some point. Just not sure exactly when that's going to be. Hopefully, we got a couple more years with him. But the one retention from the coaching staff under Billy Napier is Gerald Chapman. That was a great addition. Outside linebackers coach Bam Hardman, of course, Florida alum, was at Tulane with John Summerall. He is, I think, the lone, him and Jonathan Galante, I guess we'll say, special teams coordinator, are the lone carryovers that didn't take a demotion at all. You could say Rusty Witt. Generally, when I talk about coaching staff, I don't usually talk about strength and conditioning. I'm usually talking about, like, positions and coordinators there. So you can include Russ Hewitt if you want. I typically just don't, just because I typically just don't talk about strength conditioning there. But Bam Hardman, I think it's Bam Hardman and Jonathan Galante are the two guys that come over without a drop and roll. And even then, position coach there. Bam has a good reputation. Again, is a Gator. Both Bam and Troutwine, when they were at Florida, were captains on the team. Like, these are guys that have history at the program, that were successful at the program, and are now back to help lead the program. That's huge. And then Greg Gasparito, Tulane's defensive coordinator, now going to be Florida's inside linebackers coach. That's Harrison, an interesting one. He's someone that has worked with quite a bit of safeties throughout his career. He's worked with linebackers. He's moved around. It's just interesting to see what that's going to look like, I guess, for Florida. But I will also say this, Greg Gasparito, I think the big benefit to having him is the remodel still going to happen, or is it taking my seats? I don't know if that was Billy or I almost read that one and out loud. I hope you know that. Probably still going to happen at some point. It's not as drastic as people are talking about. I will say that, but yeah, it's probably going to happen at some point. But Greg Gasparito, I think the thing with him is that even if he's not an awesome hire immediately, like even if he is a little bit out of his depth, then you've still got Brad White and John Summerall, who were linebacker coaches before anything, right? So you've got linebacker coaches on staff to help you there. I'm not super concerned with it. In the secondary, a lot of youth, right? You've got Brandon Harris at corners from UCF. I like the addition. Brandon Harris is one of those corners, or one of those corner coaches where, this is the non-negative interesting. It's interesting that he's not necessarily viewed as a elite recruiter, although he does have great recruiting ties to the state. He's not viewed as an elite recruiter. He's not viewed as an elite developer, but everywhere he's gone, secondaries have performed well. And so I think that that's a really interesting part where he's not viewed as an elite recruiter or elite developer, but his guys play in the system at a high level. And I feel like early on with a lot of these guys, I feel like John Summerall is kind of looking for that right now. When we get back, I'm going to finish talking about the staff. We'll hit a break, and then I want to read something that we got from I saw on Twitter. But I did think that it was pretty relevant to talk about, and I've kind of touched on it a little bit. And so we'll talk about that. But so I like the Brandon Harris hire, honestly. Chris Collins at safety, I like, co-DC from Kentucky, has experience working with Brad White, has experience working with John Summerall. They know each other. Being able to work together is really important. And again, having another guy with some level of coordinator experience is important to get those minds in a room together. That's what Greg Gasparito was, right? I think it was getting a guy with defensive coordinator experience in there, high-level defensive coordinator experience, by the way, because Tulane's defense was pretty damn good. I know you can talk about the stats, you can talk about whatever you want. Watch the film and think about the process and how they're put in position. Pretty damn good. And then you also have nickel coach Daewon Wilkins, which was, fascinating to me. 25 years old, was a quality control coach last year. And this is one of the things that I look at and I go, all right, well, if you can convince John Summerall to hire you as a position coach from a quality control coach, that's interesting. In a good way. Again, this is a good interesting. Just because John, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's easily impressed by things. So to convince him to hire you as a nickel/star coach right away, as someone that was a quality control guy just last year, while also experience with Chris Collins and with Brad White, because Daewon Wilkins was at Kentucky in 2024, was 2025 quality control coach in the secondary with the nickels, and is now going to be the nickel coach. I also do like that there is a nickels coach. I think that this whole like what Napier was doing, where he's like, yeah, we're going to have a corner coach and a safety coach. Nickels, you're kind of just going to be around, maybe work with a quality control coach. I hate that mindset. You have an on-field guy, an on-staff nickels coach. I love that. Dawan Wilkins did play nickel at Furman. Again, then went to Kentucky. He was a GA in 2024, quality control coach at Florida in 2025, and is now a position. It's honestly a wild climb. It is. It's a wild climb. I am very skeptical of it, just because like the 25-year-old nickel coach is something. But again, like my overall thought of the staff aligns with someone that a lot of us know on Twitter, and we'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. We need to take one break today. One break. That's it. We'll be back and we talk about it with Locked On Gators. There is nothing like college football, college basketball season, right? Tailgates, packed stadiums, packed arenas, going nuts, free throw line. You get to get crazy and just go nuts with it, right? Fun as hell. That's why Gametime, they're going to give you the advantage back to fans, right? It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You can go to concerts too, by the way. I think in 2024, I went to 4 concerts. Easy Gametime. 4 concerts, football game, 2 basketball games. This year, not as much, right? But got to see Florida play at the Garden against UConn. Would have loved to see a win, but still a great experience. Take the guesswork out of buying college tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. And NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting, right? You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment, all there. And live betting is best when the games start to shift, right? Or if you're watching Monday Night Football and you're going, man, neither of these teams are getting to stop. I'm going to take the over. I'm going to bet George Kittle to have 6,000 yards against the Colts, whatever the hell he had. You can do that. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free. We listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And Josh, I don't know the answer to that one, actually. But like I said, I am Brandon Olsen. We're talking about this coaching staff, the transfer portal we'll get to once we finish talking about the coaching staff here. But I say, a lot of us spend time in Twitter spaces and whatnot. And we had Pucon. If you know Pucon, you know Pucon. If you don't, you don't. But Pucon kind of mentioned, like, I think we finally have real coaches again. And that's I'll read it, right? Hot take. I think we finally have real coaches again, not the flashy headline names, but teachers who develop, less hype, more fundamentals. Old school coaching is back, and that's dangerous. And I think that's kind of a way that I've talked about it and I've looked at it, right? Like I've said, like I don't think that some of these hires are known as, great recruiters or great developers necessarily, but they get results. Like Brandon Harris, right? He's not known as a great recruiter or a great developer, but every year his secondaries perform. I think that's important. Guys like, I guess, Chris Foster, right? Chris Foster, a running back coach. He also, we don't know if he's a great recruiter or a great developer, partially because, well, he's always been at these smaller schools. Up until this year, he was at Duke, and he was there for 1 year, had one of the best rushers in the ACC, and Nate Shepard. A lot of production. Won the ACC, which I know he's a running backs coach. He's not necessarily getting the credit for it, but won the ACC, and now he's a Florida Gator. Helped Keaton Mitchell get to the league, helped Matt Breida get to the league. Yeah, sure. But again, he's not someone who has this, proven track record long term. Marcus Davis, I think, is thought of as a good recruiter. But again, now he's going to be doing it in a state where he has ties, but not his alma mater, and that matters. I think we're looking at guys where it's like I've explained before. We're seeing college football kind of take this shift towards winning, right? Like that's it. Like we're not seeing like Lincoln Riley's come out anymore where they're getting hired and it's like, oh well, yeah, he doesn't have the wins, but he's got this great scheme and he's got all that going on. No, we're getting guys that just win. Like, that's it. We're getting guys that win. And I think that's important. Yes, the ball meeting is tomorrow. But we're getting guys that win, and I think you look at Kurt Signetti from James Madison to Indiana, Bob Chesney from James Madison to UCLA, John Summerall from Troy to Tulane to Florida, like in a span of 5 years. Just because he showed up at Troy, they stunk, won for two seasons, made the conference championship. Then went to Tulane, 2 seasons, made the conference championship both times for Troy and Tulane. Both every year he made the conference championship. And then now he shows up to Florida because he won. Like we're watching guys get hired because they won. Mike Jacobs at Toledo, right? Jason Candle, known as a scheme guy that's offensive minded. He's also the winningest coach in Toledo history. And they go get Mike Jacobs from Mercer, one of the winningest coaches in college football right now. And I think that John Summerall kind of took that and went, I'm just going to get coaches that know how to get production immediately. I think that's what it was with Brandon Harris, with Chris Collins, with Marcus Davis, with Chris Foster. It's like I'm just getting coaches that know how to get production from their guys and know how to win, and I'm just banking on that. Like if you're winning at the University of Florida, recruits will come, right? Recruits will come, NIL will come, all that stuff will come. It will. You don't win at the University of Florida and not get good recruiting all of a sudden, right? If you're putting an effort, Dan. Just saying, just throwing that one out the window, or out there, I guess. But I think that when we're talking about this coaching staff, that's kind of the approach John Summerall took, right? He's like, I don't care. It's not the scheme developing recruit. I'm just getting a damn good football coach. Get results from your guys. I like it. I'm honestly, I think that's really refreshing. Just again, seeing it across college football. We're looking for results, and I love that. I'm just looking through the chat for a little bit because I have not looked at it much. Foster looks like he's still got some eligibility. Yeah, I mean, dude, Chris Foster is jacked. It's wild. If DJ didn't like what John said to him, yeah, I mean, I don't know, but also like. Anybody really care? Anybody really broken up about DJ still leaving? I'm just like I'm not trying to do the bashing the player because he left thing, but I'm just saying like wasn't productive, wasn't great. Don't care. If a player with 14 picks was coming to your school, you would not be happy, right? Player with 14 picks is leaving your school, why be upset? I think that's the way to say it. Main positive is that we're going to be a year ahead of the Noles in the rebuild. I guess. I mean, I'm also just thinking like the Noles suck. So still, like they're still in a rebuild. They haven't even left it. His replacements have lower ceilings. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe his replacements have lower ceilings. But if they're going to give you higher floor, I'm kind of fine with it, right? Genuinely, like I understand saying that you want the ceiling, but ceiling can only be a promise for so long, right? It's why. No, I know what you meant, T. I just wanted to talk trash about the Noles. But like, yeah, ceiling can only be a selling point for so long. It's why when Anthony Richardson entered the transfer portal, that's why I said that was a good decision, right? Or when he declared for the draft, that's why I said it was a good decision. because he had 1 year of bad film, but he had the physical traits where an NFL team would look at him and say, I can fix that. I can work with that. Like, I can make that happen. If he came back for another year and did the same of what he did or only improved marginally, he would have been a day 3 pick in the NFL draft. It was a great decision for him to declare because you can only live off your ceiling for so long. At a certain point, you have to show the process and the progress coming forth. But yeah, I think that's how I looked at Anthony Richardson when he left. The day he left, I said that was a great decision. That was. You had 1 year of really bad film, but teams will convince themselves, hey, we could fix him. Like he's a fixable guy for us. You could do that. It was the Lenora Sellers argument, right? By the way, I think Lenora Sellers staying in school was not the bad decision. Lenora Sellers staying at South Carolina was an awful decision. Terrible. Like that line is not going to be fixed in a year. That coaching staff is not going to be fixed in a year. Tough. But I do have some portal names that we're gonna talk about here because we're 30 minutes in. Some of these names were people that were brought in the insider program. Links in the description below. If you want to be a part of it, you can do that. Just join it. Links in the description below. You get 2 weeks free. It's $5 a month after that. And talking all through this transfer portal, coaching hire, all that jazz. But USF quarterback Byron Brown was a name that quite a few people mentioned. I'll say this just off rip. I am very much expecting him to go to Auburn. And I haven't talked about him much because I'm very much expecting him to go to Auburn. It would be the best decision for him. Go with the coach that has worked with you for 2 years and that you've been successful under for 2 years. But, and like, look, I get the argument of, oh, he would be doing it against SEC opponents, and that's different, right? Absolutely. He would be doing it against SEC opponents, and that's different. However, he would also be doing it with SEC teammates, and that's different. That makes things a lot easier too. So he's an elite athlete, big arm, absolute tank, and he's going to be probably at Auburn, right? He can work in the SEC. He can work with Buster Faulkner, but I really think he's Auburn bound. And that's not me saying like that I have anybody telling me that he's Auburn bound. That's just me putting the pieces together of your offensive minded head coach that helped you get to where you go, that helped get to where you are. Is there, you're probably going to go. Philo from Georgia Tech will be the Gators' next QB. You heard it here first. I think you've heard it from 1,000 people that Aaron Philo is probably going to come to Florida. I think you heard it from a lot of folks, a lot earlier than 12:34 today. Iowa State corner Jontez Williams, absolute dog at corner. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with both of the Iowa State corners that entered the transfer portal because, Jontez is one of them, but also, or Jontez Williams is the one that we're going to talk about mostly today. But they also had Cooper from yesterday that we talked about. And I'm curious to know if either or both of them go to Penn State, because Penn State, of course, hired Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell, who also brought Iowa State defensive coordinator John Heacock with him, which, frankly, I'm very skeptical of that decision. Very skeptical of that decision. Sean Burke said Chaz Coleman on the edge will be fired. We spoke about Chaz Coleman yesterday. I am pretty confident he's going to wind up at Ohio State. An Ohio kid that went to Penn State, didn't play a ton, but when he did play, he was really productive and kicked ass against Ohio State. Kind of seems like when he entered the transfer portal, that kid's going to be a Buckeye, most likely. I like AJ Harris from Penn State. Maybe. I wouldn't be opposed to it. Jontez Williams, 1 touchdown, 5 picks in his career. He's from Florida. Wouldn't be opposed to it. I'll say that. An outside guy, not an inside out. Cooper's the inside out guy, but neither Williams nor Cooper played the full season. Cooper played 4 games. Williams played 5 this year. So we'll see what they're going to look like here. Kamari Wilson returning. God, please no. Please no. I will. Yeah, no, I'm really good on that one. I would imagine that he's going to follow Ryan Silverfield to Arkansas. Most of the Memphis guys that hit the portal, I think I look at and I say they're probably going to follow Ryan Silverfield to Arkansas, right? Just makes sense there. Same thing with talk about Byron Brown and every USF player that hits the portal, or almost every USF player that hits the portal, we're going to go. I could see them going to Auburn. That's what it is. When Tulane players hit the portal, Florida fans go, oh, are we going to get them? We going to go? Why? Because his previous coach is here now. I think that's just the easiest connection to make, and it's what I'm doing with Iowa State here too, right? Iowa State players hit the portal. Iowa State defensive players hit the portal. Their head coach NDC is now at Penn State. I'm going to say, yeah, probably going to be Penn State and Nittany Lions, right? Would make sense. Kansas safety Lyric Rawls is an interesting one there. What about Tavian Wallace? I would love to bring in Tavian Wallace. I would really love to bring in Tavian Wallace. I think a lot of people might remember when he was a recruit that I was very high on him as a recruit. Was a very big fan of his. Would love to have him here. Of course, has his brother. Is it Tevin? I always screwed up if it's Tevin or Trevin Wallace. But his brother has experience with John Summerall and Brad White because he's at Kentucky at the same time there. But yeah, Tavian Wallace is someone that I was a big fan of when he was a high school recruit. Would love to circle back on that one if it's possible. But yeah, we'll see if that's really one that's going to happen. I haven't heard really anything about him since the portal announcement. But yeah, if Florida's a spot there or a team taking a shot on him there, then I'm there. Again, I like him. Think he's a great player. Think he's a great recruit, at least. And would come in right away, probably rotate in, get some playing time behind Miles Graham, behind Jaden Robinson, and probably behind Aaron Childs as well. But I'd like it. I think that he could fit that. Like, there's a role I can envision happening for this defense that is this overhang linebacker that is off ball, comes down to play the kind of the edge a little bit, move him around, let him just be a weapon. Kind of what Tavian Wallace's brother played at Kentucky. And I kind of envision that carrying over here. And I could see Tavian Wallace playing it. I could see Aaron Childs playing it. I could see Miles Johnson playing it. I could see those kind of guys fitting into that role. So seeing there. What happened with Pup Howard? He fell way back on the depth chart. He injured his ankle in 2024 and just never really got right in Gainesville. Couldn't crack back into the depth chart consistently. Things happen. Like, college football is such a messy industry there. What about the D-lines leaving Auburn? Most are still pretty young. I would go after Amaris Williams. I would not touch Jamonta Waller. Yes, Bam is outside linebackers coach. That's your edge coach. But yeah, I wouldn't touch Jamonta Waller. Even when Jamonta Waller was committed to Florida, he was someone that I was like, he's going to need to move to off-ball linebacker if he's going to be effective. We haven't seen him play at Auburn. And yeah, I think part of it is that size. You know, he's 6'1", or he's listed as 6'1", but he's actually 6 feet, 5'11". You're not going to hang in the SEC on the edge there. You need to go off ball or you're going to be ineffective. So there's that. Ryan Tooper said a Kenny Minchie, Aaron Philo, Tramel Jones QB battle would be fun to follow. Like you said before, I doubt a proven starter would want to come and compete for a starting job and not win it. Again, I'm very skeptical of Kenny Minchie, a guy that has lost, I'm not going to say he's lost multiple QB battles, right? I'm going to say he lost one this year to a freshman as a third-year player, and that matters. But I'm also going to say that every other year he was there, they went into the portal for a new QB. And I don't know, that's just something about that just makes it uneasy for me, right? The outside linebackers in the scheme off balls, they're jack and 3 off-ball linebackers. How does a nickel fit in? We're going to see. I think that this has a chance to be a defensive system that is really interesting and really multiple. You're going to see off-ball linebackers that play, or you're going to see outside linebackers that play on the edge. You're going to see them play off-ball. I mean, look, you saw that with Florida this year, right? There were times when we watched George Gums and Jaden Woods go into the slot. You're going to see it. Nickel still probably going to be. I mean, look, they named Daewon Wilkins the star/Nichols coach, so you're still going to have that star role. Probably going to be still a safety. You're not going to see someone like I hope you don't see like we saw Sharif Denson basically play. Sharif Denson was basically playing linebacker this year, right? He was near the line of scrimmage all the time. He's on tight ends all the time. He was blitzing all the time. He was basically playing off-ball linebacker this year. I would like to see our nickel play. What's the word? Nickel. That would be a really fun one. So there's that. But Kansas safety Lyric Rawls is someone I wanted to talk about because On3 listed him today listed Florida today as a school to watch for him, along with Arizona State, Penn State, Ole Miss, Virginia, and Duke. 4 years at Oklahoma State. This past year at Kansas, 1 touchdown, 3 picks in his career. I view him as someone that you come in and you put him at multiple spots and you say, hey, compete for it. Like, I think he could play in the secondary, anything other than outside corner. I think he could play both safeties. I think he could play the star. I don't think he's this, amazing player, but I do think he's right on the cusp where you say, I think he's right on the cusp of where you say he's a starter quality or really high quality third safety. And I'm comfortable with bringing that guy in and letting him compete. What do you anticipate in terms of the size of John Staff versus Billy? Honestly, don't know. Don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like. I hope it's a smaller staff. I do. I hope it's a smaller staff, but just better. Right. I do think that one of the issues was that we kept getting all these like leaks would always happen. And it's like, I was told part of that is because the staff is so big that it was impossible to really track who was saying what to who. One thing's for certain is that we are going to see a different and much improved Gators team in 2026 because of the coaches that we have now. Hopefully, yes. Is Gerald Chapman coaching the entire defensive line or just the interior? I'm so confused by having an OLB coach and an ILB coach. I know ILBs are typically the 2 middle linebackers. The way that I view it is I view inside linebackers coaching the linebackers that are typically playing off ball and outside linebackers coaching edge. That's how I typically view it. So I'll say that. Speaking of tight ends, is Brad Foley from Tulsa seems like a beast. I like Pittman from FSU. Okay, we'll talk tight ends because I was going to talk tight ends in a little bit anyway. I will say this. I was looking at tight ends in the portal, and it is a really thin portal class right now at the position. Hayden Hansen and Amir Jackson are ranked 4th and 5th right now in the portal. Foley, I think, is going to wind up either Ohio State, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, one of those 3. I would take a swing on him. It's just I think he's going to wind up in one of those 3 spots. Pittman, I would take Pittman. I would take Randy Pittman from Florida State, but I don't know if he's engaged enough as a blocker for Buster Faulkner. You got to be engaged and effective as a blocker to work with Buster Faulkner. And I don't think that Randy Pittman is right now. So I'll say that much about it. Duke running back Nate Shepard is someone that people wanted to talk about. He's not in the portal, but we just hired Chris Foster, his running backs coach. If Jaden Baugh does enter the portal, yeah, take a swing. Does Brad White run a 3-4 or a 4-3? We're calling it the East Coast 3-4. And I will also just say this: 3-4, 4-3. Get the terminology out of your head. As far as like, oh, well, does he run a 3-4 or 4-3? Get it out of your head. It's not a thing anymore. It's just not. There's 3 down linemen, a stand-up edge rusher. Sometimes there's 4 down linemen. Sometimes there's 2 down linemen, 2 stand-up edge rushers. Defense now, very multiple. There is no 3-4 or 4-3. It's, do you run base? Do you run nickel? What is it? Like that's what we're talking about more. Most teams are going to run nickel most times. There's just 3-4. The days of saying like, do they run a 3-4 or a 4-3? Mostly dead. Again, we're calling it an East Coast 3-4, but you're going to see these outside linebackers with their hands in the dirt at times. You're going to see these Tyreek Sapp style guys hand up. Like we saw that with Ron Roberts. You see that with a lot of defenses. That's just what defense is now. That's it. And so like I think that, if you wanted to stick to it, you'd say that at Kentucky, you would see with Brad White mostly 4 down. With Summerall, you see 3 down on the stand-up edge, 2 down on the stand-up edge. You see that rotation. You'll probably see a hybrid of it. It's going to be a really interesting defense, and I'm looking forward to it. 2 more players that I had marked to talk about today. Arkansas defensive lineman Ian Gifford, I think it is. Brandon, what do you attribute to Sapp's lack of success this year to? Not having a dominant pass rusher on the defensive line. Tyreek Sapp is not a dominant pass rusher. He is not a dominant defensive footballer. Like that's it. He's not. Also, like I didn't want that. Didn't mean to come off as like rude at all. Like if it came off as rude, that wasn't what I was trying to do. I was just trying to say like everything is so multiple now. Everyone runs everything. Like all defenses have these different defensive fronts, and it's just like I think saying 3-4 or 4-3. I don't think there's a point to it because most defenses will have times where they have 4 down, times where they have 2 down, 2 stand up, times where they have 3 down, 1 stand up. Like they're going to have all these different setups, and usually you're going to have 2 linebackers behind it and a nickel. It's just it just doesn't make a ton of sense to still say 3-4 or 4-3 because everyone does everything all at once. But yeah, I think that for Tyreek Sapp, a lot of it came from not having a dominant pass rusher this year. Because look at 2024, Tyreek Sapp had a good year, but was especially noticeable when Caleb Banks was on the field and when Caleb Banks was doing work. That's when Tyreek Sapp really came alive because offenses were focused on Caleb Banks. Tyreek Sapp, I think, is a stout run defender, and I think he's a good, in the NFL, probably 3rd defensive end. That's it. But Arkansas interior defensive lineman Ian Gifford, 6'6", 370. Yep, I'd take him. Welcome back, Big Dez, right? Hey, by the way, he had a great year at nose this year. Could compete right away, probably earn a starting spot right away, and has size that he can't teach. Good run defender. I'd be happy with it. Is Caleb Banks still a 1st-round pick? I'm not told he ever was. I'll say that. I was always very on the Caleb Banks was not a 1st-round pick guy when we were talking about it preseason. Because when you think about it, in 2024, he had 4 or 5 really good games, but that's not and they all came back to back to back. That's a hot streak. That's not a season of domination. I don't think he was ever a 1st-round pick. I don't care about all the PFF said in June that he was a 5th overall pick. I don't care. He needed to come back and kick ass in 2025 to earn that. And look, it was still the right decision to leave after 2025. Like he needed to come back, kick ass in 2025 and earn that 1st-round spot, or earn that early draft pick spot. But coming back in 2026 would not have helped him. as much. Because he would have been, what? If he came back for 2026, he would have been, 25 when the 2027 NFL draft came around, with a year and a half of good production and missing a year of injury. It was better for him to just get out now, find a spot to stick, dominate, and make your money later. Make your money later rather than in the draft, right? So Caleb Banks, I don't think he was ever a first-round pick. It is what it is. And look, like, that's not to be insulting, right? Like, Jake Slaughter's not going to be a first-round pick either. He's a center. Centers don't get drafted that high. He's light for a center. He's not going to fit every scheme. Like, it's okay to be like, oh, this guy's a really good football player for Florida, one of the best players on the team, but he's not a first-round pick. It's okay to say that. It's not an insult. Like, the NFL draft, especially right now, is built so much around what's your ceiling, like your athletic ability, your age, and position. Because if you play one of the premium positions, QB, offensive tackle, pass rusher, wide receiver, corner, then yeah, you're going to be more likely to get drafted higher. Like Caleb Downs, great safety. I wouldn't touch him in the top 5. I've always been someone that has said, I'll take safeties earlier than most people. It just is what it is. 2-time All-American. He is. Also, NFL teams don't care about that. Like, Jake Slaughter is going to destroy the NFL draft process. He really is. He'll probably test pretty well. Maybe not so much the bench, but he'll probably test pretty well mostly. He'll interview really well. And he's going to be really impressive when they put a whiteboard in front of him. But teams are going to look at these lighter centers that have come out, these undersized centers that have come out lately, like a John Michael Schmitz with the Giants, and go, okay, it took you until year 3 or 4 to even be respectable here. That's a lot of investment for a center right now. If we're going to spend a first-round pick, we don't want you to take till year 3 or 4 to get good, right? And because it's just a different beast. I know that, the SEC is the best competition you're going to face if you're an offensive lineman. Like, you're not facing better defensive linemen there. But the NFL is still a different beast. Are we past the Jason Kelce archetype then? Was there ever really a Jason Kelce archetype that people followed? It was just Jason Kelce. Like, that was his thing. Maybe Tyler Linderbaum, but for the most part, those undersized centers have not done great, and teams are trying to stray away from that, especially as we're going more toward a power run game, right? Like Jake Slaughter in a wide zone offense or a pass happy offense would be awesome. We're shifting back toward the power run game. I don't know how much teams are going to value that, and there's going to be some teams that just straight up don't value him like that. Again, none of this is an insult. Like, where you get drafted, to me, does not matter. Hell, we'll talk about the last portal guy in a minute. But where, like, I've said this before, like, I've spoken with players and I've helped players figure out, what they're doing during the draft, and if they're declaring, guys, if they're portaling, if they're going to stay. Like, I've helped players come to that decision. There's some players who, when they go undrafted, or before they even go undrafted, I'll speak with them and we'll talk about, where should you go? Where would you fit? I will hang my hat on. There's one guy who I pushed for a specific spot, and he is about to be on his 3rd contract with that team. And so I will be really happy with that one, always. But like, there's a lot of times I talk to guys and I'm like, look, just go to a spot. If you have the choice, go to a spot that will just give you development, give you time. Like, that will give you a legitimate opportunity. If you're good enough, you're good enough. Like, you'll make it there. It's fine. I tell some guys, you know what? Like, some guys, maybe it's better that you go undrafted. You get to pick your spot, and we get to kind of look at what spot that looks like. You get to pick your spot, and you get to find a spot that will give you an NFL career. Not that will give you a shot. Not that will give you, like, if you're a 7th round pick, you're not safe from cuts. It doesn't matter to be a 7th round pick. What matters is lasting. Is it crazy? It is crazy to me that this recruiting class is the transition class for Summerall. How has he had time up to this point to be 100% involved? Aren't these Billy guys? I think that a lot of these recruits nowadays are being signed using revenue sharing, which is binding. And so I don't think many guys had as many choices to leave. There were plenty of guys that could have left, but they didn't. And that's really promising. But yeah, I think that's what it was. The last player that we're going to talk about, Miami of Ohio edge Adam Trick. I'd go after him in a heartbeat. 6'4", 250, 66 pressures in 2025. Can play stand-up or hand in the dirt, and had 12 pressures in the 2 games this year he played against Power 4 competition. That's the kind of pass rusher that Florida needs. And like I'm so tired of not having that truly dominant pass rusher on the edge. Like, yeah, maybe Jaden Woods can be that. All right, but I'm tired of sitting here and talking about players go back to a couple years ago, right? Go back to a couple years ago. I don't know what the dang was for. But go back to a couple years ago for Florida and Locked On Gators. And there were quite a few names where you can see me do a full show about them, just saying, go get this player in the transfer portal. Go get Nick Scorton from the transfer portal, from Purdue. Go get him in the transfer portal. He went to Texas A&M, ended up being, I think, a second-round pick in the NFL draft this year with the Carolina Panthers. Go get Cassius Howell, right? He beat the crap out of Florida this year. Like, there's a lot of people that Keon Coleman was, and I know he's not working out in the NFL right now, right? But he still ended up being the first, or I think the first pick in the second round. There's some players where it's like, just go get good football players. And Adam Trick is one of them. Again, 66 pressures in 2025. Played 2 games against Power 4 competition. I think it was Wisconsin and Rutgers. And he had 12 pressures in those 2 games, which, like, I know people can talk about how it's Wisconsin and Rutgers. But guess what? George Gums had 12 pressures all year this year. I know he played 9 games. I don't care about that, considering Adam Trick did it in 2, right? I just, like, go get the guys that are proven good production. Just go get them. Go get dudes on this team. Go get ass kickers on the edge. Just get twitched up players that can disrupt the passer. And just disrupt the passer. Like, that's it. Just get them to go there and do that, and just let them do that. And you're talking about a team that, or a position players, guys that can actually make an impact and make you better. Let's be better. This is the University of Florida. You got guys. Go kick some ass. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free. We have the podcast and on YouTube. This is a great hour-long show that we had today. We will have shows every day for the remainder of the week. We will not be going live tomorrow or Thursday or Friday for obvious reasons, right? It's holidays. Whatever you celebrate, you celebrate. I'm celebrating what I celebrate. And so, yeah, we will not be going live, but I hope you all stay safe. Hope you all have a damn good holiday if you celebrate it. Hope everyone has a good one. I hope the Florida Gators make some moves. I mean, hopefully not in the coming days so that I could actually take off. But we'll still have shows coming out every day. We'll still be here. We are your team every day. And for Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI and swampsignal.substack.com. And again, be safe. Have a great time. Be happy. And I'll see you all next time.